In the stands. First up for us, though, on this Monday night, for years, leaders in this state have talked about legalizing recreational marijuana for adult use, and it now appears that in 2021, it's likely to get done.
Yeah, the governor indicated today during his State of the State address that it will be a key priority, and we know that there is broad support for it in the legislature. Yeah,
the question is really less about do you do it, it's really more about how do you do it, right?
And New Yorkers are very supportive of it. The last Siena College poll that asked, do you support or oppose legalizing the recreational use of marijuana, found 6 in 10 are in favor, less than a third are against it.
It is supported by at least a plurality of all political groups and almost all demographics, from rich to poor, white to black, upstate to downstate, though it gets the strongest support, maybe not surprisingly, from those in the age 18 to 34 category.
And there are now lots of different groups ready to lobby lawmakers and the governor, as they'll have to compromise on how dispensaries will operate, how much it will cost, and where that money is going to go. So joining us live now in this discussion, Allan Gandelman, president of the New York Cannabis Growers and Processors Association. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Allan, you put out a statement earlier today applauding the governor for making this a priority. But as you know, we've kind of been here before, right? Are you confident that this is going to get done this session? And if so, why?
Yes, we are very, very confident it will get done this session. I think the why is because all of our neighboring states are doing it at this point. And also from an economic perspective, it really needs to get done. I think we all need the jobs. We all need, to keep growing the economy here in upstate New York. And this is the best way that we can think of growing the economy, especially the upstate economy.
Allan, at the top of the show, we talked about how recreational marijuana does have strong support, but there are certainly opponents as well who will put up a fight, arguing that there are downsides to legalization. They'll point to other states that have seen some negative side effects. So how do you respond to that criticism?
I think in the overall, big picture of things, there are very few negative side effects. I think the opponents also have to realize that there is a very thriving illegal market taking place in New York right now, probably doing the $1 billion in sales illegally that us legal businesses could be doing. And I think what we need to do is we need to divert the resources to the legal market. We need to create real jobs that pay real taxes. And we also need to keep people out of prisons. I think the war on drugs has had just a devastating effect, and there's too many people in jail for nonviolent, marijuana offenses and that all needs to get changed.
As you know, there are a million different ways that this could go in terms of how the dispensaries are going to operate, the cost of the product, what do you do with the revenue? What type of system is your group advocating for? If you can give us some of those specifics and maybe walk people through, what this would look like in real life terms.
Yes, absolutely. So our group is made up of small and medium-sized businesses. A lot of us are currently hemp farmers, so we're growing hemp all over New York State, and we're processing it into CBD oil, which is really popular. And CBD oil is very similar. The growing and the processing is very similar to THC. So we have a lot of experience already doing this. And the way we would like to see the system of adult use roll out in New York State is that a lot of our farmers and existing processors get licenses. The taxes are kept, reasonable. About 30% is what we're seeing in other states that can stamp out the illicit market, because don't forget, we're all going to be competing with the drug dealers who are already thriving. So we need to make sure that we can compete with them, which is kind of a crazy thought, but it's the reality. And then we need to see about 1,000 dispensaries open up around the New York State, all over the place. And with that and licensing hundreds of small and medium-sized growers and keeping, like I said, those taxes low, we can have a very thriving industry that can easily bring in $1 billion in revenue just in the first year. Illinois has just shown they've brought in $1 billion with a lot smaller population. Oregon has done the same in 2020. So we really are hopeful that kind of with those factors and really opening the industry up to as many small businesses around the state from day one as possible is the way that the adult use program in New York is going to be successful. The last thing we want to see is something like we have in our medical marijuana program, where there's only 10 companies operating, there's a few dispensaries, the product is expensive, and it's just too restrictive, and it just does not work.
You know, and there's been a lot of talk about how a lot of the financial benefit that will come from marijuana should go to groups that have been disproportionately and negatively impacted by the war on drugs. That's something you've kind of already talked about that. But how important is that piece of it, that social justice part, to your group and how decisions are made moving forward?
That's a great question. That piece is probably one of the top priorities we think about every day. Even though our group is made up of farmers, we really see that without the social justice, the equity piece, without people who have been affected by the war on drugs getting some of the first licenses to either grow or operate dispensaries, the program cannot ever be fair and equitable. And as farmers in upstate New York, in the rural areas, we would love to work with some of those people in the cities and be their supply chain, you know, and grow for them and, you know, let them prosper at a time where there's probably not a lot of options for them.
Hey, Allan, in just 10, 15, 20 seconds, because we're almost out of time, can you just respond? You know, we often talk to the group Kids Escaping Drugs here in Western New York. They are not for this adult use recreational program. They believe that it could allow underage people to have easier access to marijuana. Can you address that concern specifically?
I mean, in every state where it's legal and you have to be, you know, 21 and over to buy it, just like with alcohol, we're actually seeing lower uses of teenagers using marijuana when it becomes legal than on the illegal market. We all know that drug dealers do not check ID, and it's just a lot easier for people to buy marijuana right now in any city than it is alcohol, and that alone should kind of answer that question.
Allan Gandelman is president of the New York Cannabis Growers and Processors Association. Thanks very much for sharing some of your time with us this evening.
Thank you so much.
All right, good to see you.
Appreciate the conversation.